there's a misconception about the atom. Atoms are not empty. So when we're talking about the forces of the atoms, we're also talking about atoms not being empty. And so again, I'm going to use the same analogy that I used before. And again, the analogy that I'll use here is I'll use the, right? We're going to talk about the longest golf hole. And so what we imagine here is that you have some golfer here. And they're going to tee off here. Now, I don't know how a golfer tees, right? I can imagine that they got the club here and they're going to come. And then what are they going to do? They're going to hit some ball right here. So we could imagine that they're probably some hilly area above. And then we got what? We have the cup over here. This is the golf hole. What do they call it? The golf hole cup. And so one of the things here is that we imagine that this was like really, really long, super long, right? So this would be the tee off. There's the cup. And then we have this, the longest golf hole. So what do I mean by this? Well, if you were walking, from the tee off area to the golf hole or the golf cup, you'd probably say it is devoid of stuff. In other words, you'd say it's empty space because there's nothing in between. And so a lot of times, this is what I read in textbooks, especially in chemistry textbooks. So now, if I now focus on the atom, right? We have our electron right here, right? This guy's going to be our electron. And then when you look at the nucleus, right? So if you look at this nucleus here, we know that the nucleus is positively charged. And we would say that the stuff in between here, a lot of times people say that in between is empty space. And what I'm saying is that this here, this is a huge misconception. The atom is not empty, right? The atom is not empty. What do I mean by that? Look at the Rutherford experiment. This alpha particle couldn't get close to the nuclei. So what we say here is that the space between the electron and nucleus is filled with extremely intense electric and magnetic force fields. Okay? And what you find here, if something tries to enter this area, you'd be stopped instantly with a lot of violence here. In fact, you could even say this. In fact, it is these force fields that give solidity to all matter, right? We could think about tables, rocks, whatever it is, hammers. What makes these things so strong? It's because of the intense fields inside of them. So these guys are all connected, right? So when we talk about the forces, of the atom, we're talking about these electrical forces. Rutherford's gold foil experiment that he discovered the nucleus, it's what was in between the nucleus and the electron that was really deflecting the alpha particles. And then again, this misconception. Yeah, it's all empty space. That's not true. It is not empty space.